What's up, everybody? Matt and Nick back for another Who Are They Real Review. And today we're here to talk about what was one of my most anticipated movies of the year. And I think one of Nick's, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
I was excited for it.
And that's Thor Love and Thunder, the fourth film. That's right. He's the only one of the MCU's big three to get four films of his series. But this time, it's not just his film. It's also Jane Foster's. It's equally Jane Foster's, honestly. And that was something that, as a fan of her run as Thor, I was really excited about. Granted, my girlfriend stole my book, so I haven't been able to go back and read the stuff. But, excuse me, my fiance stole my comics, and yeah. But
Big ups in the chat. You gotta
yeah,
call her by her real title now.
yeah. But I was this Jane Foster's Thor and Sam Wilson's Captain America both mean a lot to me because they are two of the comic characters that brought me back into the world of comics back in the mid 2010s. So Captain America Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and this were my most anticipated Phase 4 properties. And personally, I wasn't that disappointed. I loved the chemistry that we had between Hemsworth and Portman. It was honestly the best we've had from them in this series. It didn't seem like she was sleepwalking through it, which I guess that was my big fear when they announced her coming back at Comic-Con back in 2019, was it?
Yeah.
And I just had, for the most part, a ton of fun.
It's a fun film. Don't get me wrong. Here's some of the overlying things that I just didn't like about it.
We'll get to that. Just give general thoughts.
General thoughts were that the humor didn't necessarily hit as well as it did. If you're going into this thinking you're going to get Thor Ragnarok, you're not. And I don't know if you should set your expectations high or you should set your expectations low on that. If you're going into this thinking you're going to get a ton of Guardians of the Galaxy, set your expectations high or set your expectations low. Just decide on what you want at the beginning of this and, tamper them a little bit. I did not hate this film, but it just did not do as a follow-up to Thor Ragnarok, as a follow-up to, the first two Thor films. It's great. If this came out instead of Ragnarok, I would have been like, yeah. But this followed up what is my personal favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe film in Thor Ragnarok. I thought the humor hit. I thought that the story was great. And maybe it's because it used a lot of different characters and stuff like that than this one did. But you had relatively the same core. And don't get me wrong. I think that the main four in this film were fantastic. I just think that there are certain things about it that I need a second viewing of, and I'm going to get that on Thursday, so maybe my review will change when it comes down to it. But not my favorite MCU film, but definitely not a bad film.
See, I kind of find it funny because situations are reversed, because even though we weren't reviewing movies yet, back when Ragnarok came out, I was the one who was at first. And Nick is the one who's like, "Oh yeah, I really do." Nick touched on the humor a bit, and I actually had that as a pro and a con, because there are times when it hits, it really hits. Especially when they're at this city of all the different gods, and they're trying to get Zeus's help. The comedy there hit well. The issue is, and this is an issue I had with Ragnarok, and I still have with certain scenes, not all of them, Taika Waititi at times undercuts some really beautiful moments for some cheap laughs, and they don't land. There was a part we're in the theater. I won't get into too much detail, but we're in the theater. And there's a part where Nick is just like, yeah, he's just talking to me. He's like, yes. And then one of these instances of hitting for humor happens, and it's just like, way to ruin a beautiful moment.
So here's the deal. I don't know how much detail I could get into what I despised about this film, but
you can say the main culprits.
Okay, there's goats. They get goats. And this is the problem that I have with a lot of the humor overall in this film, is that I didn't get in Ragnarok personally. And maybe it's because that film. So here's the deal, is that MCU films sequels come out within periods of time of each other, right? And certain styles of humor work then that don't work now. And I think that that's my main issue with this film, is that what was funny then, they're using still. So when those goat videos were really funny and they went, bah! And they were really annoying, that's not so funny now. And it's throughout the entire film. There's these damn goats buying over and over again and ruining certain parts for me. But it's just not even that. There are certain aspects of this film that feel incredibly dated in their humor. But again, I think that they were trying their hardest to continue on what they were building with Ragnarok. And I could watch Ragnarok right now and go, oh, well, maybe the humor didn't hit. Like, the music stylings are similar throughout the entire series of Taika films. And I think that they're fantastic. What worked with Immigrant Song in the first film in that block works really well with Guns N' Roses in this movie.
Yes.
Because it was a few different Guns N' Roses songs.
Yeah, it's not just Sweet Child of Mine. There's a couple other ones, and they really.
But I don't know. The Zeus scenes were good, but there's a couple of like. And you see it in the trailer. It's like, oh, he's naked. Everybody, all the girls in the crowd and Matt are probably going, woo! And Nick. But still, it's just like, I just... That type of humor to me becomes, based in things that I enjoy that are like cartoons and stuff like that. Not necessarily... something that I use for a cheap laugh doesn't necessarily come out in a film like that. And that's... I think my overlying issue is that I didn't personally think that it was as funny or the humor was used as well as in Thor Ragnarok, which was something that felt like a breath of fresh air for me. And don't get me wrong, I think that there's a certain, once we get into a little bit late into phase 3 and now into phase 4, humor is being used a lot more in the MCU than it was before. It's one of the reasons why I'm a bit skeptical on She-Hulk for certain things that happen in the trailer, with like the boyfriends and stuff like that. I'm just going, oh, it's been done. You know what I mean? Except now it's a giant green lady doing it. And instead of, goats, it's ginormous goats and stuff like that, like I said, I just don't think that the humor hit for me as well as it did in the first one. And I think that took away from a lot of it for me. And I also didn't think visually at times it looked great.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm going to play into a pro that also plays into a con. Cinematography, there were moments where it's just spectacular. Like, it is spectacular visually at multiple points. But those moments can also be ruined by some iffy special effects.
Yeah, and as Matt described it, I think that there might be one of my favorite parts in the MCU ever. Like, there's a part where, like, I turn to Matt and I'm like, this is my film. Like, I want this in Marvel movies more. And that brings me to the reason why that thing happened, Gorr. Mm-hmm. Now, Gorr, I liked Gorr a lot. And it's probably because he reminded me of Emperor Palpatine in Episode 3 in the way that his mannerisms were. I think that Gorr is going to... I think that there's two ways that they could have done Gorr. And that was playing more into the Taika side of things, which is what they did. Or he was going to be really, really ruthless and serious and yada, yada, yada. And there's aspects of that. Don't get me wrong, but I'm saying like one side or the other. I didn't
See,
think that.
I thought they found a good middle point for that because.
Well, I just think that there's going to be people who watch this film and go, I wanted him to be ruthless Gorr the Butcher the entire time and not have any of this humor in it mixed in, or not have any of this hokey character in it. That's where I think that, like, I loved it for that reason though, because I love episode 3 and I love the hokey crazy Emperor Palpatine. And it's not like he's the exact same character as Emperor Palpatine. I'm just seeing it in like he talks like this, and every once in a while he has these moments and stuff like that. And it just, I like that, but that's not going to be everybody's cup of tea.
So, Gorr is a character I feel like is one of the most relatable characters in regards to his motivations as a villain.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I enjoyed his character so much. And yeah, there's a little bit of goofiness, but that's, to me, that was expected with the Taika film. But when he is on in the ruthlessness, it is just it brings a little bit of goosebumps to you, and that was important to me. It's not like they just completely undercut me as Taika jokey all the time.
No.
I will say that
just...
your Emperor Palpatine comparison, very valid and fair. It's just there. I guess ultimately I wanted a little bit more of them because I'm like, we have Christian Bale here, Christian frickin' Bale. And I didn't feel like I got to see enough of him because I loved what he was doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, and that might be another gripe that I have, is that anytime there's reasons why we don't see him as much that play into the story when we go to, say, a place that he might be. And within that space, there's one really good scene with him in it. But we never go back to that. Like, I feel like there is something to his motivation as a villain with what he did. And this is very broad, I understand, but Matt will understand what I'm saying. There's something that they didn't play into with what he did as a character to what his motivation is. And I'll explain it once we're obviously done with this review. That they didn't play into enough, at least for me. So, like I said, I'll get into that afterwards. When somebody watches the film, they will probably understand more of what I'm alluding to, because obviously this is a spoiler for your review. But Gorr was great for me. I loved him.
All right, and lastly, I know this is a gripe you and I both had. That pacing in the first half of the film.
Mm-hmm. Second act is way better than the first act.
Second act is way better. But that first half of the movie was like happening at a breakneck speed. It's like this. It's like, whoa! Can we slow down a little? Like this movie is just clocks under 2 hours total with credits. You could have given us five extra minutes to just like help space that out, and it would have helped, because a lot of people, 5 minutes of movie time may not seem like a lot, but it is, especially when it comes to creating a little bit of a slower pace.
Yeah.
So the pacing was one of my in the first half at least was one of my biggest issues. But once we settle and Jane and Thor meet for the first time in the film, that's when it's just like, oh, yep, cool. This is where we're going now. All right, let's ride with it. But all right, so final ratings. I was a little bit kind of the Nick, because I did enjoy it much more on a first viewing. Granted, like he said, I might like it less on a first viewing and he might like it more. But on a first viewing, I am giving it a 4 out of 5 reels. That is right, 4 out of 5. It respects the Jane Foster's Mighty Thor character, which is something that was extremely important to me. You just get a ton of fun moments. Chris Hemsworth is at his best. Gorr is awesome. When this film's on visually, it's great. The humor when it's on is great. It's just Taika needs to learn when to use that humor and when not to, personally, for me. And then for Nick, go ahead and talk about your rating a little bit.
I gave it a 3 out of 5. I think that it's going to bump up, though, upon a second viewing. As you can see in the background, those friggin' Satan's boys in the background really drag the movie down for me. You're gonna know why. Not Gorr. I'm talking about the goats. And like I said, the humor felt a little dated, and but I did love a lot of the characters, a lot of the music, and a lot of the editing choices overall.
Yeah. But with that, folks, this was another Who Are They real review. Be sure to tune in next time. I honestly don't know what next time is. I think next time might be Nope, unless there's something that comes out on the 15th that I'm completely, because I know they're not doing. I'm pretty sure they're not doing a Paws of Fury screening. So I think the next time I see you or we see you might be Nope. So
we'll see. I think we might have I think that there's some time that might be freed up for a little real talk soon.
Yeah, well,
so we'll have to see.
Yeah, but until then, folks, I'm Matt. That was Nick. And this was another Who Are They real review. Remember to like, subscribe, follow, all that fun stuff. Comment. Be sure to comment what you think on this film. And we'll see you next time. Peace.